Our top focus this hour, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is in Israel for the first high-level engagement with the Naftali Bennett government. Now in focus is a quadrilateral meet between US, India, Israel and the UAE. The foreign ministers of the four countries will meet virtually later today. Soon after his arrival, Jaishankar met Israel's Chamber of Commerce and also spoke at the India-Israel Business Roundtable, where he urged Israeli corporates to invest in India and take advantage of its business-friendly policies. Now, Jaishankar appreciated the Israeli Chambers of Commerce and Innovation ecosystem for their visible enthusiasm towards more partnerships with India. Now, on his main visit to Jerusalem, Indian MEA visited the Indian Cemetery, where he paid homage to the fallen Indian soldiers from the First World War. The Indian MEA later met with Indian Jewish community in Israel and hailed their manifold contribution to the ties between the two countries.
I would say the Indian Jewish community is in many ways very unique because like other communities, it is a community which has existed peacefully in India for hundreds of years, which maintained its Jewish identity despite a long period of isolation from other Jewish communities. And two, because when all of you chose a new life, and here mainly for civilizational reasons, it is again the basis for creating a new bond between India and Israel.
Now, the Indian Foreign Minister will today hold a bilateral meeting with his Israeli counterpart Yair Lapid. Further, he will also call on Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, Israeli President and the National Security Advisor. Later in the day, a significant virtual meet will be held between the United States Secretary of State, the Minister of External Affairs of India, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the United Arab Emirates and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel. India and Israel have traditionally enjoyed close ties. Although India had recognized the Jewish state of Israel way back in 1950, it established full diplomatic relations only in 1992. And since then, there has been an upswing in the relations between the two countries. In view of the common concerns, India and Israel elevated bilateral relations to a strategic partnership as well when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Israel in 2017. Other relationships between the two countries are focused on expanding knowledge-based partnerships. This includes collaboration in innovation and research, including boosting the Make in India initiative. Over the years, both the nations have developed close cooperation in intelligence sharing and counter-insurgency operations. India has become a major buyer of Israeli armaments, and Israel is among the key partners of India in agriculture. India and Israel have also a high-tech weapons partnership. And now for more on this, we are being joined by WION correspondent Jody Cohen, who is joining us live from Jerusalem, and WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal, who is joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you, both of you, for joining us. Now, Jody, my first question to you is, Indian External Affairs Minister is in Israel. This is the first high-level engagement. Could you just take us through the planned meets and discussions for this visit?
Absolutely. So he has a jam-packed visit ahead of him. Today, he will be meeting with Foreign Minister Yair Lapid shortly. He'll then be going on to a centre called Shalva, which is a centre for children with special needs. And that will be something that's very close to Yair Lapid's heart. He'll be accompanied by his wife and Minister Jaishankar and his wife, because the Lapids have a child with special needs. So that's something that's very important to them personally. And the Shalva Centre is really a pride of Israel, very innovative in its therapies there. They'll then be moving on to the Israel Museum, where they'll be seeing examples of Indian art and a model of a synagogue that is based in India, and meeting with students as well who are studying from India at Israeli universities. And then later on this evening, there'll be a quadrilateral meeting between the foreign ministers of Israel and India, and the US and the UAE will also be joining that, where they will be talking largely about environmental issues, about the environment and trade.
Right, Jody. Do stay with us. Siddhant, coming to you now, what can you tell us about some of the key areas of discussions with the Israel government and also the quadrilateral meeting between the United States, India, Israel and the UAE?
Well, this is a much celebrated relationship. We have seen in the past the chemistry between the former leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. The Indian Prime Minister has been to Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu has been to India. In fact, we know that he was expected to visit India again, but we have seen the political developments in Israel. But this is a good occasion for the Indian External Affairs Minister to meet with the new leadership in Israel. This is his first visit in the present capacity, and the visit, of course, is a mix of people-to-people interaction, and also when it comes to engagement in terms of not only with Israel but with like-minded partners. The most significant aspect of today's engagement is the Quad meeting. It has been dubbed as the new Quad. We know that this is a direct outcome of the Abraham Accords that saw Israel and UAE normalizing the relationship. They have the trilateral pact as well in terms of robotics, how robots by an Israeli company will be developed here in India and they will be used in UAE. And we also know that the foreign ministers of all these three countries, along with countries like Egypt, Cyprus, Greece, are expected to meet in Dubai in November at a summit meeting. And that will be the focus area of connectivity that connects Mediterranean to India via the Arab world.
Right, Siddhant. Stay with us, Siddhant. We will come back to you. Let's just bring Jody back into this discussion. Jody, what can you tell us about the Quad meet that is expected to happen later today? Just take us through some of the objectives of this Quad meeting.
So they have announced that the Quad meeting will be looking at issues to do with the environment and energy and trade. And this is particularly significant because we know that the COP26 Global Climate Summit is coming up at the end of this month. And as well, today they've announced that Israel will be joining the International Solar Alliance, which was established by India and which seeks to promote affordable, renewable energy around the world. So that will be a key focus. I imagine that Iran possibly will be discussed as well and security issues, but they've announced that the key focus will be on sustainability issues and on trade.
Right, Jody. Siddhant, coming back to you now, we know that the External Affairs Minister even addressed the India-Israel Business Roundtable. Could you tell us about the partnership and the developments on that front?
Well, as I just said, that people-to-people interaction will be one of the key aspects of this visit. And of course, he met the business community there. The focus was on innovation, on how there can be more Israeli investments in India, Indian investments in Israel. Israel is a leading power in terms of water management. And of course, Israelis are helping India in terms of water management, also on agriculture. But also, he is going to meet the Indian students in the universities. He's already met the Indian origin Jews in Israel, and that is significant. We saw the speech by him, and he highlighted the aspects of how Jews have been connecting between India and Israel in terms of centuries and have played an important role as well.
Right, Siddhant. Also, now we will see the bilateral talks between Yair Lapid. What are the developments that we can expect going forward on that front?
Well, the bilateral engagement between the two countries have increased progressively. We know that when it comes to the engagement, it has substantially increased. The focus will be on making sure that how both countries can work in various aspects, particularly when it comes to connectivity in the region from Arab world to India, and of course Israel as well. Iran is one aspect that is expected to be discussed during the meet as well, but making sure that there can be more high-level visit by the new leadership from Israel to India.
Right. All right, Siddhant and Jody, thank you so much for joining us with all the developments on that. We will, of course, continue to track this very closely. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.